Welcome to LE Explain It. Define Constitution. Constitution is that body of rules and maxims in accordance with which the powers of sovereignty are habitually exercised. What is the Philippine Constitution? The Philippine Constitution is that written instrument enacted by direct action of the people by which the fundamental powers of the government are established, limited and defined, and by which those powers are distributed among the several departments for their safe and useful exercise for the benefit of the body politic. What is the purpose of the Constitution? The purpose of the Constitution is to prescribe the permanent framework of a system of government, to assign to the several departments their respective powers and duties, and to establish certain first principles on which the government is founded. What are the classifications of a constitution? A constitution is classified as written or unwritten, enacted, conventional, or evolved, cumulative, and rigid or flexible kinds of constitution. Differentiate written from unwritten constitution. A written constitution is one whose precepts are embodied in one document or set of documents, while an unwritten constitution consists of rules which have not been integrated into a single, concrete form but are scattered in various sources, such as statutes of a fundamental character, judicial decisions, commentaries of publicists, customs and traditions, and certain common law principles. Distinguish conventional from cumulative constitution. An conventional constitution is enacted, formally struck off at a definite time and place following a conscious or deliberate effort taken by a constituent body or ruler, while a cumulative constitution is the result of political evolution, not inaugurated at any specific time but changing by accretion rather than by any systematic method. Distinguish rigid from flexible constitution. A rigid constitution is one that can be amended only by a formal and usually difficult process, while a flexible constitution is one that can be changed by ordinary legislation. What are the qualities of a good written constitution? A good written constitution first, must be broad, not just because it provides for the organization of the entire government and covers all persons and things within the territory of the state, but because it must be comprehensive enough to provide for every contingency. Second, it must be brief and must confine itself to basic principles to be implemented with legislative details more adjustable to change and easier to amend. Lastly, it must be definite, in order to prevent ambiguity in its provisions which could result in confusion and divisiveness among the people. What are the essential parts of a good written constitution? A good written constitution must have the following essential parts. First, Constitution of Liberty. Second, Constituent of Government. And third, Constitution of Sovereignty. What do you mean by Constitution of Liberty? Constitution of Liberty means the series of prescriptions setting forth the fundamental civil and political rights of the citizens and imposing limitations on the powers of government as a means of securing the enjoyment of those rights. This is best manifested in Article 3 of the Philippine Constitution. What do you mean by Constitution of Government? Constitution of Government means the series of provisions outlining the organization of the government, enumerating its powers, laying down certain rules relative to its administration, and defining the electorate. Articles V, 7, 8 and 9 of the Philippine Constitution are the best examples of this. What do you mean by Constitution of Sovereignty? Constitution of Sovereignty means the provisions pointing out the mode or procedure in accordance with which formal changes in the fundamental law may be brought about. This is best manifested in Article 17 of the Philippine Constitution. How does the court interpret/construe the Constitution? The court must interpret the Constitution by applying the basic principles of statutory construction. First, the verba legis principle, that is, whenever possible, the words used in the Constitution must be given their ordinary meaning except where technical terms are employed. Second, the ratio legis est anima principle, where there is ambiguity, the words of the Constitution should be interpreted in accordance with the intent of the framers. Third, the et magis valet quam pereat principle, that is, the Constitution has to be interpreted as a whole. What is the point why there is a need to interpret the Constitution using verba legis principle? In the case of Francisco v. House of Representatives, GR number 160261, November 10, 2003, the Supreme Court said that as the Constitution is not primarily a lawyer's document, it being essential for the rule of law to obtain that it should ever be present in the people's consciousness, its language as much as possible should be understood in the sense they have a common use. Why is there a need to apply ratio legis est anima principle where there is ambiguity in a constitutional provision? The words of the Constitution should be interpreted in accordance with the intent of the framers. Thus, the court in construing a constitution should bear in mind the object sought to be accomplished and the evils sought to be prevented or remedied. A doubtful provision shall be examined in light of the history of the times and the conditions and circumstances under which the Constitution was framed. According to the case of Civil Liberties Union v. Executive Secretary, 194 SCRA 317. What is the purpose? Why is there a need to interpret the provision of a constitution as a whole when different provisions deal on particular subject? Sections bearing on a particular subject should be considered and interpreted together as to effectuate the whole purpose of the Constitution, and one section is not to be allowed to defeat another, if by any reasonable construction, the two can be made to stand together. Is it permissible to resort to other aids for interpretations aside from the established principles? Yes. When the plain meaning of the word is not found to be clear, resort to other aids is available. However, the court said that while it is permissible to consult the debates and proceedings of the Constitutional Convention in order to arrive at the reason and purpose of the resulting Constitution, resort thereto may be had only when other guides fail, as said proceedings are powerless to vary the terms of the Constitution when the meaning is clear. Thanks for watching.